Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide. A reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that Irving Berlin was born in Russia and came to the United States as a young child, worked as a street singer, and sold newspapers to help support his family? Learn that Berlin served in the U.S. Army during World War I and wrote "God Bless America" while stationed at a military camp in New York. Learn how Berlin wrote more than 1,500 songs during his lifetime, and that "God Bless America" didn't become famous until 20 years after it was written. Discover that Berlin donated all the money from "God Bless America" to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America, and that members of Congress sang "God Bless America" together after the events of September 11th as a symbol of unity.
I want you to close your eyes for just a second, really picture this. I want you to try and imagine the absolute most quintessential American songs you can possibly think of.
Oh, yeah. The ones that are just baked into the culture.
Exactly.
Huh?
The kind of music that feels so deeply woven into the fabric of the country that you can't even imagine a time before it existed.
Yeah.
You're probably hearing the sweeping, almost reverent chords of "God Bless America."
Right. Or maybe you're feeling that warm, nostalgic perfection of White Christmas.
Yeah, those specific songs carry such a heavy cultural weight. They don't even feel like they were written by a human being sitting at a piano, do they?
No, they
Why?
really don't.
Why?
They feel more like natural resources.
Yeah.
Like they were just discovered out in the American landscape somewhere rather than deliberately composed.
That is the perfect way to describe it. They feel like permanent, immovable fixtures. But the startling truth we found in today's stack of reading is going to completely upend how you view that musical landscape.
Oh, it really is. It blew my mind.
Because the architect of America's musical identity, the very person who wrote those iconic songs, was not born anywhere near the United States.
Right.
He was a Russian immigrant who arrived on American shores at just 4 years old, and he had a grand total of 2 years of formal education in his entire life.
Which is just wild to think about.
It's crazy. And the legendary name that you probably know him by, the name that is literally synonymous with the Great American Songbook, he gained it from a typo.
Yeah, it is one of those historical realities that sounds entirely made up.
Totally.
The very foundations of American popular music, the melodies that define the national mood for a century, were laid by someone who had to learn the culture completely from the outside in.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission for this deep dive is to explore the extraordinary, honestly unbelievable life of Irving Berlin.
Yeah.
We're going to dig into the mechanics of how profound personal grief and immigrants' defining gratitude and a literal sense of divine national destiny all intertwine to create the soundtrack of the United States.
What's fascinating here is how Berlin's life doesn't just run parallel to the American century he lived through. It perfectly mirrors it.
Oh, that's a great point.
I mean, we're talking about a life spanning an incredible 101 years. And when you look closely at that timeline, his personal journey synthesized the raw, street-level struggles, the immense tragedies, and the ultimate spiritual triumphs of the nation itself.
He lived the American experience in its most concentrated form.
Exactly.
So to even begin to understand the sheer volume of his output, and we really need to emphasize this, we're talking about a guy who produced over 1,500 songs, dozens of hit musicals, legendary films.
Just an unbelievable work ethic.
Right. But to understand that, we have to start with the harsh realities of his early life. He wasn't born Irving Berlin. He was born Israel Balin in Russia on May 11th, 1888.
And his family fled the intense persecution of the Russian Empire. They made that grueling journey to immigrate to the U.S. when Israel was just 4 years old.
Just a toddler, basically.
Yeah. They arrived in New York City, dropping right into a lower-class neighborhood teeming with immigrants who were all desperately looking for safety and opportunity.
But the transition was brutal. The one beautiful, enduring thing he brought with him from the old country, though, was music.
Which came directly from his father, right?
Exactly. Berlin inherited this profound structural love of music from his dad. His father was a cantor.
And for anyone unfamiliar, a cantor's role in a Jewish synagogue isn't just to, sing some hymns.
No, it's way more central than that.
Right. It is to lead the congregation in solemn religious prayers. They are the musical conduit for the community's relationship with God.
You have to imagine young Israel sitting there, absorbing the sheer emotional power of a single human voice filling a room, carrying the weight of centuries of sorrow and hope.
The synagogue was essentially his first and really his only real music school.
Wow, yeah.
He was learning fundamentally how melody operates as a vehicle for human emotion. But whatever stability that religious community provided was shattered very early on.
Because tragedy struck his family almost immediately, right?
Yeah. His father died when Israel was only 8 years old.
8 years old? I mean, think about what that actually means in the 1890s. The immediate consequence of his father's death was that young Israel's childhood basically evaporated overnight.
Yep. He had to grow up instantly.
He was left with exactly 2 years of formal education. That's it. Second grade, and then you're done.
Because there was absolutely no social safety net back then. If you didn't work, you didn't eat.
Right.
So, to support his widowed mother, this 8-year-old boy had to hit the streets to earn whatever pennies he could scrounge together.
Which is heartbreaking.
It is. And the progression of his jobs is pretty telling. He worked as a newspaper seller, literally yelling on street corners. Then he became a street singer, busking for loose change.
Like anything to get a tip.
Exactly. That eventually led to him becoming a singing waiter in saloons, and finally, he started writing his own lyrics.
It is the ultimate trial by fire. I look at this time in his life, and I realize it wasn't just about earning money. It was an incredibly rigorous, informal education.
Oh, absolutely. A masterclass in public reception.
Yeah, because when you are a singing waiter in a rowdy saloon, you are essentially A/B testing melodies and lyrics in real time. If you sing something and the crowd ignores you, you don't get a tip and you go hungry.
But if you sing something that catches their ear, you survive another day.
That is the crucial mechanism behind his later genius. Let's look at the advantage this incredibly hard upbringing actually gave him.
Right, because he only had 2 years of formal schooling, Berlin wasn't constrained by the rigid classical rules of musical composition.
Because he didn't know them.
Exactly. He didn't know chord theory. He couldn't even read sheet music. But that meant he didn't know what he wasn't supposed to do.
He was field testing his art on working-class crowds every single night.
Yeah, that lack of formal education allowed him to bypass academic music entirely and speak the musical language of the common person fluently.
I love that. His survival mechanism literally became his defining skill. Which brings us to this wild turning point in 1911.
This is one of my favorite stories.
So he manages to publish his first song. It's a track titled Marie from Sunny Italy. But when the sheet music comes back from the printer, there is a glaring error on the cover.
A huge way.
It completely misprinted his name. Israel Baleen was printed as Irving Berlin.
And instead of, demanding a reprint or getting upset, he just embraces it.
He kept it for the rest of his life.
Yeah, he just rolled with it.
It blows my mind. It's like a superhero origin story, but the quintessential American name in music, Irving Berlin, was literally a typographical error.
It's such a symbolic shedding of the old world, really.
Yeah.
Israel Baleen, the impoverished Russian immigrant, stays in the past. Irving Berlin, the hitmaker, is born.
Reinvention born out of pure pragmatism. But as we move forward in his timeline, we see that this musical survival mechanism had to evolve.
It did. It started as a way to escape physical poverty. But eventually it had to become an emotional survival mechanism.
To help him process some unimaginable adult tragedies.
Yeah.
And this is where the story gets incredibly heavy. Because right as his career is finally taking off, right as he is finding his footing and achieving real success, he experiences a crushing loss. In 1912, he marries a woman named Dorothy Goetz.
It should have been the triumphant peak of his young life. I mean, he has money, he has fame, he has love.
Right. But they go on their honeymoon, and while traveling, Dorothy contracts typhoid fever.
And she died just a few months after their wedding.
It is a brutal, whiplash-inducing transition, going from the absolute peak of romantic joy to the deepest, darkest valley of despair.
And how does a man who cannot read music, but who feels music in his bones, process that kind of devastating grief?
He writes.
Exactly. Following Dorothy's death, Berlin channeled all of that raw, suffocating heartbreak into a song called When I Lost You.
It wasn't written for a show, right? It was just for him.
It was pure, unfiltered grief.
Right.
And the mechanism of that song, the emotional honesty of it, resonated so deeply with the public that it sold over 1 million copies.
Because everyone intuitively understands loss. Even if they haven't lost a spouse on their honeymoon, they know what that ache feels like.
Yeah, he managed to distill a universal feeling into a melody.
But tragically, that wasn't the end of his heartbreak.
Oh.
Time moves on. He continues to write. And in 1926, Berlin marries Ellen Mackay. They build a beautiful life together, eventually having 4 children.
3 daughters and a son named Irving Jr.
But the shadow of tragedy finds him again. On Christmas Day, in 1928, Irving Jr. died.
The boy was only 3 months old.
I honestly cannot even fathom the darkness of that moment. Losing an infant son. And doing it on Christmas Day of all days.
It's unbearable. The materials we were reviewing note that Irving and Ellen visited the baby's grave every single Christmas after that.
The holiday was permanently, inextricably linked to this profound, melancholy loss for their family.
It completely rewired his relationship with that time of year.
Yeah.
And years later, Berlin took that specific, agonizing melancholia, that feeling of standing in a graveyard in the snow, and he poured it into a new melody. That song became White Christmas.
Wait, I am really struggling with that connection. Here's where it gets really interesting, but also a bit confusing. How does a song about sleigh bells and snowmen actually communicate the paralyzing grief of losing an infant?
On the surface, it doesn't seem to fit.
Right, because White Christmas is just pure, cozy holiday joy for millions of families. The lyrics don't mention loss at all. How do those two things connect?
It is all in the subtext and the musical structure itself.
Okay, break that down for me.
If you strip away the Bing Crosby warmth that we associate with it today and just look at the notes and the core sentiment, it is not a happy song.
Really?
The chord progression is incredibly nostalgic. It's heavily reliant on chromatic descents that musically evoke a sigh or a feeling of slipping away. And look at the lyrics. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. It is entirely about longing. It is an ache for a past that is out of reach.
Oh, wow.
He isn't writing about enjoying Christmas in the present. He is dreaming of a Christmas that is lost to him forever.
When you frame it like that, it completely changes how I hear the song. It's an expression of yearning.
Yeah.
It astonishes me that this deeply personal articulation of longing went on to become the best-selling holiday song in the history of the world.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it reveals the defining pattern of Berlin's genius.
Which is what?
He possessed an almost transcendent ability to take raw, isolating personal pain and translate it into a universal emotional vocabulary.
I see.
He didn't write a literal song about his departed son because that would be too specific. He wrote a song about the beautiful sadness of memories. By doing that, he created a vessel that anyone could pour their own nostalgia and grief into.
He created a song that comforted the entire world because he understood the mechanics of longing.
Exactly. And he applied that emotional intelligence across all genres.
He really defined the American mood for decades. We are talking about massive culture-shifting hits like There's No Business, like Show Business, Easter Parade, Remember, always Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Just an unmatched catalog. He became the most popular songwriter in the United States, providing the thematic backbone for countless movies and musicals.
He had his finger firmly on the pulse of the nation's emotions, precisely because he allowed himself to feel his own emotions so deeply.
Yeah, and just as he channeled his profound personal pain into White Christmas, he also found a way to channel his immense personal gratitude.
Right, because that gratitude birthed what would become his most revered and socially impactful work.
Absolutely.
If White Christmas is his monument to grief, God Bless America is absolutely his monument to gratitude.
Think back to that 4-year-old boy fleeing the Russian Empire. Berlin officially became a United States citizen in 1916.
And he didn't just take the passport and enjoy the safety. He actively served in the U.S. Army during World War I.
His dedication was incredibly tangible. It was actually during his military service in 1918, while stationed at Camp Upton in New York, that Berlin originally wrote God Bless America.
But interestingly, he set it aside, right?
Yeah, he literally tossed it in a drawer. It wasn't until decades later, as the world was once again sliding toward the terrifying reality of global conflict, that the song finally found its moment.
Right. In 1938, as the threat of World War II was looming over everyone, Kate Smith, who was a massively renowned radio singer at the time, she introduced the song to the public at an Armistice Day celebration.
And she brought this incredible soaring enthusiasm to it.
The public reaction was explosive. It became an instant, massive hit. And what I find so deeply moving about this is Berlin's reaction to the success.
Oh yeah, what he did with the money.
He didn't see this as a way to get richer. He refused to capitalize on it. He donated every single penny of the royalties from that song to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts of America.
Which is a brilliant testament to his view of the future. He was funding the youth of the country he loved.
God Bless America effectively became the unofficial national anthem of the United States.
And the reason it works so well is how carefully Berlin constructed those lyrics. It is a masterclass in shifting perspective.
How so?
Well, it starts by acknowledging the terrifying anxiety of the era. While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free.
Oh, so he validates the fear first.
Exactly. And then he moves the listener into a solemn, comforting prayer of gratitude. He asks for divine guidance before painting this sweeping cinematic imagery of the physical country itself, from the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam.
He grounds the anxiety in the physical beauty and safety of the land.
Yeah.
And the country absolutely recognized the weight of what he had given them. This wasn't just pop music anymore. President Harry S. Truman awarded Berlin the Army's Medal of Honor in 1945.
And later, in 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower awarded him a Congressional Gold Medal.
The actual inscription on the medal reads, "In recognition of his services in composing many popular songs, including God Bless America."
And his response to receiving that medal cuts right to the core of his identity. He said, "To me, God Bless America was not just a song, but an expression of my feeling toward the country to which I owe what I have and what I am."
He viewed his entire existence as a debt he owed to the United States.
Yes.
The song was like a musical thank you note that ended up becoming a security blanket for the whole nation. You see people reach for it in times of crisis, from World War II all the way up to modern times.
Very true.
One of the readings we went through highlights an incredibly moving story shared by Congressman Mike Castle on October 12, 2001.
Oh, right after 9/11.
Yes, just days after the unimaginable devastation of 9/11, Republicans and Democrats stood shoulder to shoulder on the steps of the U.S. Capitol. And in that moment of total shock and grief, they spontaneously burst into God Bless America.
Wow.
It became an instant rallying cry for peace and unity in one of the darkest hours in modern history.
That doesn't happen by accident. Berlin deliberately codified the immigrants' immense appreciation for their adopted homeland into the DNA of that song.
It really is an enduring piece of civic architecture.
It is a song that millions of people can step inside and inhabit whenever they need to feel connected to something larger and safer than themselves.
And as we look at the central plea of those lyrics again, God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her and guide her, through the night with the light from above, we start to see another layer to this story.
Yeah, a much deeper layer.
The materials we're looking at today introduce a fascinating spiritual perspective to explain why Berlin's music resonates so deeply. The truth presented in our sources is that Berlin's deep feeling of being blessed by America directly mirrors a literal, divine foundation of the nation itself.
This raises an important question regarding how we interpret the success and enduring liberty of the United States. The source material shows that the blessing Berlin wrote about is not just a poetic sentiment, but a foundational divine reality.
Right.
And it points specifically to ancient scripture to contextualize this.
To understand the spiritual lens our sources are using, they point us directly to a passage from the Book of Mormon specifically, 2 Nephi chapter 1, verse 7.
Right. The text lays out the terms of a very specific divine promise regarding the American continent.
It reads, "Wherefore this land is consecrated unto him whom he shall bring. And if it so be that they shall serve him according to the commandments which he hath given, it shall be a land of liberty unto them."
Wherefore they shall never be brought down into captivity. If so, it shall be because of iniquity. For if iniquity shall abound, cursed shall be the land for their sakes. But unto the righteous it shall be blessed forever.
It outlines a profound conditional promise. Through this spiritual lens, the land itself is literally consecrated for liberty.
But that liberty is strictly contingent on the people seeking to serve God and live righteously.
So what does this all mean when we bring it back to Irving Berlin? When we look at his prayerful lyric asking God to stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above, we are seeing a perfect echo of that specific scriptural concept.
The sources suggest that Berlin understood, perhaps instinctively, through his own grueling trials and his harrowing immigrant journey, that the nation's liberty and its enduring safety are directly tied to that divine guidance.
Exactly. The light from above is the mechanism that keeps the land free from captivity.
It challenges us to look beyond secular history. Framed this way, Berlin's story isn't merely a tale of pulling himself up by his bootstraps. It serves as a testament to the idea of a consecrated land.
It really presents the truth that true freedom and the kind of unparalleled artistic flourishing that Berlin experienced are deeply connected to a higher spiritual order.
He was able to thrive because the environment was uniquely prepared for that purpose. And the text really prompts you to reflect on that and ask, what does America mean to you?
It is a heavy, beautiful question to carry with you. And as we look at the final chapter of Irving Berlin's remarkable century on Earth, we see a very quiet, deliberate conclusion to a life spent shaping the American soul.
Yeah, after decades of relentless creation, writing the songs that defined generations, he finally stepped back.
He officially retired in 1962, retreating to his home in the beautiful, secluded Catskill Mountains in New York.
He spent his twilight years far away from the noise, the chaos, and the ambition of the city that first forged him.
He and his wife Ellen lived out their days in that quiet mountain home. Ellen passed away in July of 1988, reaching the age of 85.
And Irving Berlin followed her just over a year later. He passed away on September 22, 1989.
He lived to the astounding age of 101.
Think about the span of that life. He literally bridged 2 centuries.
Yeah, from the 1800s to the brink of the 1990s.
He arrived in a world where horse-drawn carriages filled the dirt streets of New York, and he lived long enough to see the space age, the rise of the internet era, all while providing the foundational music that played in the background of all that immense world-altering change.
It really is awe-inspiring when you take a step back and look at the totality of it. To you, the listener, think about the sheer, improbable magnitude of this journey.
It's hard to even wrap your head around.
A little boy fleeing the Russian Empire, arriving in a strange city with nothing but the clothes on his back. A boy who lost the guiding force of his father, who lost the joy of his new wife, who lost his infant son.
A boy who gained his legendary name from a simple, careless printing mistake.
Exactly. That same boy took a heart entirely full of tragedy and an overwhelming, unshakable sense of gratitude, and he used those two things to shape the spiritual and emotional soundtrack of an entire nation.
He possessed the ultimate alchemy. He took the absolute worst things that happened to him, the deepest wounds a person can suffer, and he transformed them into a gift of comfort and identity for everyone else.
Which leaves us with one final thought to mull over today as we wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah, what's the takeaway here?
If a grieving father can take his absolute darkest, most agonizing Christmas morning and through sheer force of will and vulnerability, turn it into a source of enduring light and comfort for billions of people, what hidden potential for beauty might be lying dormant inside your own hardest moments?
Thank you for joining us for this day in his story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in his story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.